The stars had gone quiet by the time the HSS Revenant slipped out of the void. Silence was not peace. It was the kind of silence that came before a predator struck. Every alien vessel orbiting the neutral moon of Calvaris froze when their scanners picked up the lone human ship. One vessel, sleek, black, unmarked. No fleet, no escort, no diplomatic code. Just a cold, deliberate approach that ignored every rule of galactic protocol. On the orbital station, Commander Vale of the Galactic Empire leaned back in his chair, mandibles clicking in irritation as he studied the readings. His officers whispered in unease, but Vale only scoffed. "Human error," he grunted. "They must have drifted off course. Surely they are not that foolish." But deep inside the Revenant, Captain Elias Red checked his systems by hand. No voice commands, no soft blinking AI prompts. His fingers danced across analog toggles and physical switches. Old tech, outdated to the Council, but safe. You couldn't jam what you couldn't trace. Red's face was hard, weathered by years of war and silence. His eyes were steel, no smile, no nerves, just focus. He looked like a man who had already been ordered to die and chose instead to drag hell down with him. "Navigation locked," reported Chief Gunner Briggs from the rear. His voice was rough, scarred by smoke and years of loss. "All heavy cannons armed, reactors holding at 92%. Say the word, Cap." Red's gaze fixed on the three-dimensional display hovering before him. The projection showed Calvaris, a gray, cratered moon, and the swarm of alien ships above it. Patrol cutters, corvettes, frigates, even a pair of battleships, their hulls gleaming like predators fat on stolen prey. All of them had ignored Earth's diplomatic warning. They weren't supposed to mine the moon, not after what happened at Vega 6. Not after the treaties, not after the promises. But they pushed anyway. Mocked humanity's restraint, treated patience as weakness. Now they would learn the difference between silence and submission. "Send the beacon," Red said flatly. At the comms station, a young recruit, Ensign Hale, swallowed hard. His hands trembled as he pressed the sequence. A signal burst outward, short, sharp, impossible to mistake. 8 words. "You were warned, now you will understand." The alien fleet reacted instantly. Dozens of comm channels lit up at once, alien voices hissing, laughing, ridiculing. "One ship. Are you lost, human? This is Council territory. Turn back or die." Red muted them all. "Light them up." The Revenant spinal railgun fired first. The weapon wasn't supposed to exist. A slug of compressed tungsten the size of a car tore through space at impossible speed, breaking the laws of mass and reality. 2 alien corvettes died before they even knew they were under attack. They split in half, spilling flame and atmosphere into the void. Explosions rolled across the orbital path like thunder with no sound. Within 14 seconds, 5 ships were gone. Vaporized. Burning debris spun out into the void like ash on the wind. Briggs laughed, a dry, broken sound that hadn't carried joy in years. "That's for Vega," he muttered, already loading the next salvo. The comms filled with chaos. Screams, orders, threats. None of it mattered. They thought humanity would show up begging, negotiating, pleading to the Council like always. They hadn't expected Red. They hadn't expected the Revenant. Inside the cockpit, Red didn't smile, didn't blink. His eyes were locked on a single target, the alien command ship, larger than a city, bloated with weapons and arrogance. That was the ship that ordered the strike on Vega 6. That was the ship that burned human hospitals. That was the ship that had experimented on children. Red's voice was calm. "Adjust trajectory, lock plasma turrets, prepare the burst core." A warning flashed across the screen. Hull temperature rising, reactor stress at critical thresholds. The Revenant was operating beyond safe limits. But this ship wasn't built to survive. It was built for one thing: retribution. Alien formations scrambled, circling, trying to adapt. Dozens of ships converged, herding the Revenant toward the moon's gravitational well. Their strategy was perfect, logical, efficient. But they didn't understand. This wasn't war, it was a message. And humanity had chosen to carve it into the stars with blood. A plasma barrage hammered the port side. Armor screamed, superheated plates glowing red. Sparks burst across the cockpit. Still no shields. The Revenant carried none. Forward plating down to 63%, Briggs barked. Coolant leak on deck 3, Hale cried. Red's grip tightened on the manual controls. No panic, just calculation. Hold formation. Another strike rattled the hull. Lights flickered. They're learning, Briggs muttered. That cruiser's tracking like it knows our blind spot. Because it does, Red said calmly. They've faced Earth ships before. Yeah, Briggs growled, teeth bared, but never this one. Twin torpedoes launched, splitting mid-flight into thousands of tungsten shards. The alien cruiser didn't even know what hit it. Its engines ruptured. Fire swallowed its hull. Another death, another name crossed from Red's list. But for every enemy they killed, 5 more closed in. The Revenant wasn't just outnumbered, it was outgunned, outsized, outflanked. The difference was simple. The humans had something to die for. The aliens didn't. Sir, Hale's voice cracked. Reinforcements inbound, 20 more ships 30 minutes out. Red didn't blink, doesn't matter. But, I said it doesn't matter. Hale shut his mouth. He'd heard the rumors, same as everyone. Captain Elias Red wasn't just another soldier. He was one of the ghosts of the Black Crusade, a classified unit Earth never admitted existed. Men who came back weren't soldiers anymore. They were something else. Red stood from his chair, slow, deliberate. He walked to the viewport, staring at the burning wreckage drifting across the stars. His face remained carved in stone, but his voice carried weight when he finally spoke. You ever lose someone in a war, Hale? The young comms officer froze. Why, yes, sir, my brother, Vega 6. Civilian or combat? Civilian, 14 years old, they said. Hale's voice cracked. They said he was taken during the bombing. We never found his body. Red nodded slowly. His eyes didn't leave the wreckage. Then you understand. The ship's AI crackled, its voice mechanical, soulless. Reactor at 95%. Burst core charging, 12 minutes until readiness. Hold it, Red ordered, until my command. Briggs straightened, hands loading the last railgun slug. It wasn't standard issue. A custom shell, heavier, crueler. You sure about this one, Cap? Red said nothing. Briggs grinned like a wolf. Didn't think so. Deep in the cargo bay, 3 crew members prepped the drop drones. Not escape pods. Drones packed with footage, names, and proof, evidence of what the Council had done to human colonies. Genocide, harvesting, atrocities buried under treaties and lies. The Revenant wasn't just a weapon. It was a witness. 2 more cruisers closing fast, Hale shouted. They're boxing us into the gravity well. Perfect, Red whispered. The Revenant dove, artificial gravity shuddered. Hull plating peeled white-hot against atmospheric drag. Enemy ships followed, sleeker, faster, confident. And then Red gave the order. Release the flares. Hundreds of black orbs spilled into space, floating like useless debris. The alien ships tore through them. And their systems died instantly. EMP spores, illegal, devastating. Both cruisers went blind. One spiraled into the moon's atmosphere, burning like a falling star. The other shattered under twin plasma lances. The Revenant clawed upward again, engines screaming, nose aimed straight at the command ship Velcarnes. That massive alien fortress loomed ahead, arrogant, untouchable. Briggs' voice was low, dangerous. That's the one, Cap. That's the bastard that burned Vega. Red's eyes narrowed. His voice was barely a whisper. I remember. The AI's voice echoed, cold and final. Burst core primed. Impact projection, 87% fatal. The crew went silent. Everyone knew. This was no battle. It was an execution. The Velcarnes loomed in the void, a behemoth draped in arrogance. Its armor gleamed silver-black under Calvaris' pale light, its surface studded with batteries and hangars. It was a city-turned predator, a monument to the Council's pride. And the Revenant was a knife aimed straight for its throat. Briggs' voice crackled through the intercom, low and sharp as broken glass. Slug loaded, last one. Captain Elias Red didn't move from the viewport. His reflection stared back at him, hard eyes, pale scars, a face hollowed by grief and fire. His hand tightened on the railing. This wasn't war. This was justice. Target their mid-deck reactor cluster, Red said, voice even. Locked, Briggs confirmed. The Revenant shuddered as its burst core charged deeper, reactor alarms screaming. Panels flickered. Hale's fingers danced desperately across comm controls, trying to filter through the storm of incoming hails from alien ships. Most were threats. Some were mocking laughter. A few, just a few, sounded afraid. Hale muted them all. His throat was tight. His brother's face haunted him in the flashing red of the warning lights. 14 years old. Burned alive, maybe dissected, maybe worse. And now he was on the only ship crazy enough to make them pay. Sir, he said suddenly, voice cracking. If we fire the burst core, none of us are coming back. Red turned slowly, his eyes locked on the young ensign, calm, cold, and heavy as a coffin. We were never meant to come back. The words sank into the bridge like a weight. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the overloaded reactor and the distant groan of the hull under stress. Then Briggs barked a laugh, harsh and bitter. Hell boy, did you think we signed up for a cruise? You're already dead the moment you stepped on this ship. Hale swallowed pale. He looked down ashamed, but Red's gaze lingered on him longer than necessary. Not in judgment, in recognition. Because Hale wasn't wrong. Because part of Red wished the boy hadn't been dragged into this. But the galaxy didn't leave room for innocence anymore. The Revenant roared forward. Enemy ships swarmed around it, desperate to intercept. Plasma fire seared across its hull. A destroyer's beam cannon carved deep scars into its side. The cockpit filled with alarms. Armor down to 40%, Briggs shouted. Deck 5's on fire, containment failing. Red's voice cut through the chaos like steel. Focus, stay on target. The alien destroyer lined up for another strike. But before it could fire, the Revenant twisted in an impossible maneuver. Its manual pitch controls screeched against physics as Red forced the ship to roll into the blind arc of the enemy's sensors. Briggs fired instantly. The last railgun slug screamed through the void, punching straight through the destroyer's core. The ship split apart in a violent cascade of fire and broken metal. Briggs whooped like a madman. That's 6. But even as wreckage spun into the abyss, 20 more signatures lit up on the scanners. Reinforcements. The nearest outpost had heard the chaos and unleashed its garrison. 22 minutes to intercept, the AI droned. Projected enemy force, 23 additional ships. Probability of survival, less than 1%. Good odds, Red muttered. The bridge went quiet again. Outside, the Velcarnes finally stirred. Its shields flared alive in layers of shimmering blue, wrapping its massive hull in arrogant light. Fighters poured from its hangars like hornets from a nest. Hundreds of them. The comms lit again, this time with a deep, resonant voice. Suriken, authority laced every syllable. This is Admiral Corrin of the Velcarnes. Human vessel, power down immediately. Your rebellion ends here. Your colonies are dust, your species is fractured, your cause is hopeless. Stand down and your deaths will be swift. Red listened in silence. His crew watched him, waiting. Then Red reached forward, pressed the comm, and spoke for the first time to the enemy. You made a mistake, he said flatly. You thought we'd forget. Then he cut the line. Briggs chuckled darkly. I bet he didn't like that. The fighters closed in. The bridge shuddered as hundreds of plasma bolts lit against the Revenant's hull. The ship groaned like a wounded beast, but it kept moving. Red didn't flinch. His eyes stayed fixed on the Velcarnes, on the ship that had ordered the firebombing of Vega 6, on the ship that had murdered his son. A flash of memory burned behind his eyes, his boy's laugh, small hands tugging at his sleeve, the smell of smoke filling the colony air as the world fell apart. Never again. Cap, Briggs said, more serious now, burst cores at 98, ready on your word. Red's hand hovered over the final control. And then... Wait, Hale gasped. His console flashed, pulling up a data burst intercept. It wasn't enemy chatter. It was a hidden transmission riding the back of the fighter squadron's signal code. He played it. The voice was alien, but not hostile, not mocking, desperate. Human vessel, Revenant, if you hear this, I beg you, my name is Sierra of the Ikari. I know what they did at Vega. I have proof. Please, don't fire yet, there's more. The bridge froze. Red's brow furrowed, a carry. Briggs snarled, trick has to be. But Hale shook his head. No, the signal's piggybacked through a maintenance band. That's not military, that's someone inside. The voice came again, trembling. They'll kill me if they find this message, but you need to know. Vega wasn't the only one. Calvaris isn't the only one. They've been doing it for decades, and they're building something worse. Static cut her off. Briggs slammed a fist against the console. Lies, damn alien lies. But Red didn't answer. He stared at the screen, jaw tight, eyes calculating. Proof. That word, that possibility. Because vengeance was one thing, but truth could make the galaxy bleed harder than any cannon. Trace it, Red ordered. Hale's fingers flew. Signal came from inside the Velcarni's, lower deck, restricted sector. Another strike rocked the ship. Fires spread through Deck 3, the reactor screamed. Captain, Briggs barked. We don't have time to play chase the rabbit. We fire now, we take them with us. That's the mission. But Red didn't move. His hand hovered over the burst core controls, frozen between fury and something else. He had sworn this was justice. He had sworn there was nothing left but retribution. But now there was a chance at more. A chance to prove the Council's crimes. A chance to show the galaxy the truth. Briggs glared at him, furious. Don't you dare hesitate, Red, don't you dare. The alarms wailed louder. Fighters swarmed. Reinforcements closed in. The Velcarnis loomed ahead, shields bright, weapons primed. Red's crew waited. One command would seal their fate. One command would decide whether they died as executioners or as messengers. His hand hovered over the control. Then Red spoke, voice low, heavy, unyielding. Helm, prepare boarding vectors. The bridge went dead silent. Briggs stared at him, rage and disbelief twisting his face. Boarding? You've lost your damn mind, that's suicide. Red's eyes were steel. We're already dead, but if that Akari's telling the truth, then we make sure the galaxy knows what the Council really is before we go. For the first time, Briggs looked afraid. Not of death, he'd made peace with that years ago. But of what Red had just set in motion. Cap, Briggs whispered, you're going to damn us all. Red didn't answer. He just looked at the massive alien fortress ahead, and in his silence the order was clear. The Revenant adjusted course, engines screaming, tearing toward the Velcarnis not as a weapon, but as a boarding spear. And somewhere deep inside that alien ship, Sierra the Akari waited, holding the truth. The Revenant's engines screamed as it carved through the battlefield. Plasma fire flared across its hull, ripping deep scars into the carbon-titanium plating. Entire decks shook as alien fighters swarmed like a hive, spitting lances of blue energy. Still, the ship kept going, straight for the Velcarnis. Briggs gripped the gunnery console, sweat and soot streaking his face. You're insane, Cap. We should have fired the core. We could have ended this now. Red didn't even look at him. His eyes never left the target, the Velcarnis, a titan in orbit, bristling with weapons, arrogant in its shielded confidence. This isn't just about vengeance, Red said, voice like stone. It's about the truth, and truth has to be carried by survivors. Hale swallowed, his hands shaking over his console. Survivors? Sir, with all respect, there's no way we... Focus! The Revenant dove beneath a line of enemy frigates, railgun fire shredding through their underbellies. Explosions lit the void like fireworks, debris scattering. Briggs laughed, the sound cracked and bitter. Fine, we'll carve a hole big enough to jam the ship down their throats. Inside the cargo bay, the crew strapped themselves into drop harnesses. Not escape pods, not lifeboats, just reinforced tubes designed for breaching runs. The kind of things no sane captain used against a ship 10 times their size. But Ilia's Red had never been sane. The AI's voice droned over the alarms. Impact trajectory calculated. Recommended survival rate 3%. Better than 0, Red muttered. Briggs spat onto the floor, grinning through broken teeth. Hell with it, let's ride. The Velcarnis loomed closer, its hull glowing beneath layers of shimmering shield. Alien voices barked across comm bands, demanding surrender, mocking their madness. Red silenced them with a single phrase. Arm the prow. The Revenant's nose split open, revealing its last weapon, a breaching spike, a massive tungsten alloy spearhead designed for planetary drills. Modified, sharpened, wrapped in plasma charges. Not a weapon for ships. A weapon for vengeance. The alien fleet realized too late what was happening. Frigates scrambled to intercept. Destroyers turned, heavy cannons glowing. Fighters swarmed. The Revenant did not slow. "Brace," Red said calmly. The prow ignited, wrapped in a burning sheath of plasma. The Revenant tore through the alien defenses like a hot blade through flesh. Fighters vaporized on impact. A destroyer tried to ram them, split in half instead, its carcass spinning into the void. And then impact. The Revenant slammed into the Velcarni's shield with a blinding flash. For a heartbeat, the shield held, glowing white-hot. For a heartbeat, it looked like the ship would shatter against it. Then the prow's charges detonated. The shield collapsed in a storm of fractured energy. The Revenant pierced through, its spike tearing into alien armor with a shriek that shook the stars. Metal screamed. Bulkheads collapsed. Fire erupted across the Velcarni's hull. The Revenant embedded itself deep inside the command ship, half buried like a dagger in the chest of a beast. The bridge was chaos. Alarms howled, sparks showered, flames licked across the consoles. Briggs staggered up, coughing smoke. "We're in, by God, we're in." Red steadied himself, blood running down his forehead from the impact. He keyed the intercom. "Boarding teams, go." The cargo bay doors burst open. Human soldiers poured out, armored in patchwork suits, wielding plasma rifles and scavenged gear. They weren't a fleet. They weren't even soldiers anymore. They were survivors with nothing left to lose. The first wave stormed into alien corridors still reeling from the impact. Surican guards met them in the smoke. Mandibles clicked, blades flashed, plasma bolts seared the air. The Revenant's crew fought like ghosts. Silent, efficient, ruthless, every strike was personal, every pull of the trigger carried the weight of Vega. Briggs led one squad himself, railgun slung over his shoulder like a toy. His laughter echoed through the halls as he carved through Surican lines, each kill punctuated with a roar of rage. "Tell Vega I said hello." Hale wasn't laughing. He was shaking, firing wildly, eyes wide as alien blood splattered across his visor. He never killed before, not like this, not up close, but Red's voice steadied him over the comms. "Focus, Ensign, breathe, don't die here, not yet." And Hale steadied. For the first time he steadied. Meanwhile, deep in the Velcarni's lower decks, Red himself moved with lethal purpose. His squad cut through sealed blast doors with plasma charges, leaving burning holes in their wake. They weren't heading for the bridge. They weren't after the Admiral. They were hunting the signal. The message. The Ikari voice that begged for them to listen. Corridors twisted into laboratories. Rows of tanks lined the walls, filled with twisted shapes suspended in pale liquid. Some human, some alien, some neither. Hale gagged when he saw them. Children, their bodies warped, their eyes wide open even in death. "They God, what did they?" "Don't look," Red said harshly, but his voice cracked just once. "Proof." The word echoed again in his head. Because this wasn't just genocide, this was something worse. A door hissed open at the far end of the chamber, and there she was. Sierra. Small, thin, her skin glowed faintly blue under the harsh lab lights, her Ikari features sharp but exhausted. Shackles clamped her wrists. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "You came," she whispered. Red raised his weapon, uncertain. "You sent the signal." "Yes, and I can give you what you want. Proof. Vega, Calvaris, all of it, but you don't understand," her voice cracked. "It's bigger than that." Briggs shoved past, snarling. "She's lying, council bait. Put her down now, Cap, before she sells us out." "Wait," Red snapped, louder than intended. His eyes burned into hers. "What do you mean, bigger?" Sierra's lips trembled. "Vega wasn't the first colony they burned, and it won't be the last. They've been harvesting your people for decades, and they've started a project that could end everyone." The words hit harder than any plasma bolt. Hale's hands shook. "Harvesting project." Sierra's eyes met Red's. "You came for vengeance, but if you destroy this ship now, you'll bury the only chance to stop what's coming." Before Red could answer, the corridor shook violently. Explosions thundered above. The Velcarni's was fighting back. Bulkheads slammed shut. Defense drones dropped from the ceiling, weapons primed. Briggs cursed, swinging his railgun up. No more time for fairy tales, let's end this. But before he could fire, the drones locked onto Sierra, not the humans. Red's eyes narrowed. They weren't trying to kill her. They were trying to silence her. The truth wasn't just dangerous. It was forbidden. Red fired first, shredding the drones before they could strike. Smoke filled the corridor. The smell of burning circuits stung the air. Sierra stared at him, stunned. You believe me? Red lowered his rifle, jaw tight. I believe the Council fears you more than they fear us. But then, a voice boomed across the Velkarnis, filling every corridor, every chamber, rattling through the ship like thunder. Admiral Corrind. Humans, the Surakan's voice hissed. You dare invade my vessel. You dare defile the Council's sanctum. You will die here, but not before you see what we have built. The walls shook, lights flickered, and a massive bulkhead slid open at the end of the hall. Beyond it, in a chamber the size of a stadium, something stirred. Rows of vats pulsed with faint light. Shapes twitched inside them, not alien, not human, something between, flesh grafted with steel, eyes glowing faintly red, hundreds of them, thousands. And at the center, suspended in a tank of dark liquid, was something worse. Something that looked human. But its face, its eyes were familiar. Hale gasped, choking on his breath. God, no, that's... Red's chest went cold, his throat closed. The face staring back at him through the glass was his son's. Captain Ilia's red froze. The chamber stretched before him, a cathedral of nightmares. Rows of vats lined the walls, glowing faint green and blue. Each one held something half-formed, twitching, broken. Human faces pressed against glass. Alien eyes blinked where no alien should be. Metal tubing fed into spines that weren't human at all. But Red didn't see the thousands. He saw one. The vat at the chamber's center. A boy's face, pale, dark hair, eyes closed as if sleeping. His son. Red's throat closed. For 12 years he had carried the certainty that his boy had burned with Vega 6. That his laughter, his small hands, his future, had all vanished in ash. But here he was, preserved in liquid, frozen in time. Red staggered a step closer, his boots clanging on the grated floor. No, his voice cracked. It can't. Sierra's voice trembled behind him. It isn't him, not truly. The Council, they keep memories, blood, fragments, they rebuild them, replicas, hybrids. But Red wasn't listening. His hands pressed against the vat's cold glass, his reflection blurred with the boy's face inside. Briggs swore under his breath, lowering his weapon. Even he looked shaken. God Almighty, they cloned him. No, Sierra whispered. Worse, they engineered him. The tank pulsed, the boy's eyes snapped open. Not human eyes. Glowing red, mechanical cores spiraled within them. Hale screamed, stumbling back. That's not human, that's not. The liquid drained from the chamber. The vat split open. The figure stepped out slowly, liquid streaming from its pale skin. Tubes tore free from its spine, its chest rose, mechanical lungs hissing. And then its voice. Father. Red's blood turned to ice. The voice was distorted, layered with static, but it was his boy. His son's voice calling him across 12 years of death. Briggs raised his rifle, face twisted in horror. Cap, it's a weapon, look at it. The hybrid's head turned sharply, movements too precise, too fast. It studied the humans with alien coldness, yet its lips curled into a faint, childlike smile. They told me you would come. Red's jaw clenched. What are you? His voice trembled, not with fear, but rage. The hybrid tilted its head. They call me Subject 9, but I remember another name. A pause. Adrian. Red staggered back. His boy's name, the one he had buried. Hale whispered, voice broken. Sir, what if it's really him? What if? It isn't, Sierra snapped, sharp and urgent. She grabbed Red's arm, pulling him back. It can't be. They overwrite memories, splice them. They use faces, voices, anything to break you. That's what the project is, living lies. Briggs snarled, stepping forward. Then we burn it right here, right now. Wait, Red's voice cut like a blade. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Smoke from the earlier breach drifted in lazy spirals through the chamber. The hum of machinery pulsed beneath their feet like a heartbeat. The hybrid boy looked at him. Not Briggs, not Hale, not Sierra, only him. "Father," it said again, softer this time, "help me." Red's hands shook. He had survived wars, betrayals, the burning of colonies. He had never broken. But this face, was a dagger aimed at the last fragile piece of him. Sierra tugged harder at his arm. "Red, if you don't kill it now, it will kill all of us." Briggs was already aiming down the sights. His finger tightened. The hybrid smiled faintly, then moved. Too fast, faster than any human. Its arm blurred, metal claws extending, slashing Briggs' weapon aside. Sparks burst. Briggs stumbled back, roaring in fury. Hale screamed and fired wildly. Plasma bolts seared into the hybrid's chest, but it barely slowed. It lunged for the ensign. Red moved on instinct. He slammed into Hale, shoving him clear. The claws raked across Red's armor, tearing deep gashes into the plating. Pain seared his side, but he didn't fall. The hybrid loomed over him, eyes glowing, expression strangely calm. "They told me you were weak." Red snarled, blood dripping down his side. "Then they lied." He drove his combat knife into the hybrid's neck. Sparks exploded. The creature shrieked, voice warping into static. It staggered back, clawing at the blade. Briggs recovered, swinging the railgun like a club. He smashed it across the hybrid's skull. Bone and metal cracked. The creature fell to one knee. Sierra shouted, "The control node, back of the neck." Red didn't hesitate. He tore the knife free, spun behind the hybrid, and slammed it deep into the glowing node at its spine. The hybrid convulsed, shrieking. Its voice flickered between machine distortion and a child's cry. "Father, please." Red's breath caught, his hand faltered on the hilt. And in that split second, the hybrid's claw slashed upward, tearing across his chest. Red staggered back, blood spraying. Briggs roared, lifted the railgun, and fired point blank. The slug ripped through the hybrid's torso, blasting it across the chamber. It slammed into the wall, sparks flying, body twitching in mechanical spasms. Smoke filled the air. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of ruptured tanks. The hybrid's body slumped, still. Red staggered, clutching his bleeding chest. His vision swam. Sierra steadied him, eyes burning with urgency. "Do you see now? They've weaponized your grief. That's what Project Revenant is, not a ship, not a war plan. This, an army of broken memories, faces of the dead rebuilt into monsters." Red's hand trembled. His knife was still slick with synthetic blood. He couldn't tear his eyes from the body on the floor. Briggs spat, chest heaving. "We end this place, we end all of it now." But before Red could answer, Admiral Corrin's voice thundered again across the ship. "You've seen our work, human. You've seen our perfection. And now you will die knowing we turned your pain into power." The chamber shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared. The vats around them began to drain all at once. Thousands of them. Hale's face went white. "Sir, oh God, they're waking them up." Vats burst open. Figures spilled out, twitching, shrieking. Hybrids, some half-human, half-alien, some unrecognizable. Their eyes glowed with that same red light. The chamber filled with the sound of claws scraping metal. Briggs raised his rifle. "Here we go." Red's voice was raw, bleeding, but steady. "Hold the line." The first wave of hybrids lunged. Plasma fire lit the chamber in a storm of light and screams. The chamber erupted. Rows of vats split open like wounds, spilling liquid and bodies onto the steel floor. Hybrids shrieked as they stumbled forward, claws scraping, eyes glowing red in the dark. The smell was unbearable, burnt ozone, blood, and chemical rot. Briggs' railgun thundered. The slug tore through 3 hybrids at once, sending them spinning in pieces. Hale fired wildly, plasma bolts searing into chests and faces. The air filled with the sizzling stink of cooked flesh. But for everyone that fell, 3 more surged out. Back to the corridor," Red barked. They retreated in tight formation, step by step. The hybrids screamed, voices warped, some eerily human, some guttural and alien. One lunged for Hale, claws raking across his visor. He screamed, stumbling, only for Red to yank him clear and drive his combat knife up under the hybrid's jaw. The creature collapsed, twitching. Red didn't stop moving. Briggs roared over the noise, laughter mixed with fury. "Come on then, let's see how many of you bastards bleed." He fired again, the recoil shaking his whole frame. Sierra stayed close to Red, her blue skin slick with sweat. She carried no weapon, but her eyes darted across the chamber with cold calculation. "We can't hold them forever," she hissed. "There's too many. We need the reactor core." Red gritted his teeth, slamming a hybrid against the wall, knife ripping through its throat. "Talk." "The hybrids are tethered," she said quickly. "They're controlled through a node central hub near the command deck. Destroy that and you sever them." Another hybrid lunged. Briggs blew its head off mid-leap. "Convenient damn timing. How do we get there, alien?" Sierra's eyes burned. "You don't have to trust me, but you've seen what they're making. If you let this ship live, they'll breed armies of these things. Vega will look merciful compared to what's coming." Red didn't answer. He just pressed forward, carving a path through shrieking monsters. Hale was pale, breathing fast, but he fought like a cornered animal now, each shot steadier than the last. Rage fueled him, not training. "Corridor ahead," Briggs bellowed. They burst from the chamber into a narrow passage, the hybrids pouring after them. Red slammed his fist against a control panel. The door hissed shut, sealing dozens of clawed arms and screaming faces behind reinforced steel. The silence after was deafening. Red leaned against the wall, blood dripping down his chest from the earlier wound. His breathing was ragged, but his eyes burned like fire. "Which way?" he demanded. Sierra pointed down the dim hall. "Up 2 decks, forward sector. The node chamber will be guarded heavily. Corrin knows you're coming." Briggs grinned savagely. "Good, I owe him a conversation." They pushed forward, cutting through alien defenses. Surican soldiers now filled the halls, blasters crackling. The crew fought like demons, every corridor soaked in smoke and blood. But the losses began. One of Briggs' men took a plasma bolt to the chest, armor glowing before collapsing in flames. Another was dragged screaming into a side corridor by hybrids that had broken through ventilation shafts. Their screams echoed long after the gunfire drowned them out. Hale flinched at every death, but Red's voice was constant in his ear. "Focus, Ensign. Don't count bodies, count targets." Hale obeyed. He kept firing, kept moving. At last they reached a stairwell spiraling upward. The metal shook with each step, alarms howling above. And then the ambush. Explosions tore through the stairwell. The structure collapsed in sections, sending fire and bodies tumbling into the abyss below. Red barely caught a railing, dragging Sierra up beside him. Briggs hauled Hale by the collar, screaming curses. When the smoke cleared, half the squad was gone, burned, buried. Briggs' voice cracked with fury. "We're running on fumes, Cap. We can't bleed like this." Red's jaw tightened. He turned to Sierra. "That node better be worth every life we're spilling." Sierra met his gaze, unflinching. "It is. It's not just a control hub, it's a storage array. Every atrocity, Vega, Calvaris, dozens of colonies recorded in council files. If we destroy it, the hybrids die. If we take it, the galaxy learns the truth." Red's heart pounded. Justice and vengeance balanced on a knife's edge. He spoke softly, but his words cut deep. "Then we take it." They fought their way forward, the corridors narrowing into the command sector. Alien banners hung from the walls, black and silver, marked with the council's crest. The smell of blood and smoke clung to every surface. At last they reached the doors, massive steel gates glowing with energy locks. Behind them, the node chamber. The crew prepared charges. Briggs slammed a plasma pack against the seam, grinning through soot and blood. "Open sesame." The blast lit the hall like lightning. The doors split open. And inside, a sphere the size of a cathedral hung in the air, glowing red with pulses of energy. Cables stretched from it like veins, webbing into the walls. Screens flickered all around, each displaying horrors. Colonies burning, humans in cages. Children experimented on. "The truth." Briggs' grin faltered, even he looked sick. Hale whispered, voice trembling, "God, it's all real." Sierra stepped forward, her voice steady. "This is it. Destroy it and you sever their hybrids. Take it and you show the galaxy the truth." Red's hand tightened around his rifle. But then, the far doors burst open. Admiral Corrin strode in, massive, armored mandibles glistening with fury, flanked by elite Surican guards in heavy exosuits. His voice boomed, rattling the chamber. "Humans, you dare touch the heart of my vessel. You dare poison our order with your filth. You will not leave this place alive." The guards raised their weapons. The node pulsed, The hybrid screamed through the walls, and the chamber lit with red light. Red raised his rifle. His voice was ice. "Then we make sure you don't leave either." The battle for the node began. The node chamber pulsed like a heart. Red light washed across steel walls and burning consoles. In its center, the great sphere throbbed, veins of data streaking across it like lightning. And then came Admiral Corrin. The Surican towered over his guards, armored in black plates streaked with silver. His mandibles clicked, teeth gleaming as he raised a massive blade humming with energy. "You are vermin," he hissed, his voice echoing off the walls. "You break into our sanctum, you kill our soldiers, and now you stand before our triumph. This is the future, a future where humanity exists only as parts." Red leveled his rifle, his body burning with blood loss. "No," he said coldly, "this is where it ends." The battle erupted. The chamber became a storm of fire and steel. Plasma bolts screamed, ricocheting off armored exosuits. Briggs' railgun slugged through one elite guard, tearing its chest apart in a spray of gore and sparks. Hale fired desperately, his shots searing across another's helmet until the creature fell. But Corrin was something else. He moved with terrifying speed, his blade cleaving through cover like paper. One of Red's men tried to intercept. Corrin cut him in half in a single motion. Sparks and blood sprayed across the floor. "Fall back," Red barked, firing into the Admiral's chest. The rounds pinged harmlessly off his armor. Corrin roared, mandibles flaring wide. He slammed a clawed fist into the ground, sending shockwaves across the chamber. Hale was thrown into a console, blood spraying from his mouth. Sierra pulled him back, shouting, "We need the node alive. Don't let stray fire hit it." Briggs snarled, "Alive? Are you out of your mind? Blow it to hell and end this." But Red wasn't listening. His eyes locked on Corrin. Every fiber of rage, every scar burned into him since Vega narrowed onto this one monster. The Admiral had given the order. He had turned his family into ash. He had unleashed the hybrids. Red charged. Corrin swung his blade, but Red ducked under, slamming his combat knife into a seam of the alien's armor. Sparks burst. Corrin roared, backhanding him with crushing force. Red flew across the chamber, smashing into a pillar. His vision went white, ribs shattering. "Cap," Briggs roared, firing slug after slug into Corrin's flank. One finally pierced, tearing through flesh. Black ichor sprayed. Corrin snarled and turned, his blade flashing. Briggs tried to dodge, but the weapon carved across his side, slicing deep into his torso. He collapsed, coughing blood. Red staggered up, his chest screaming with every breath. He saw Briggs on the ground, pale, dying, but still grinning through broken teeth. "Don't stop, Cap," Briggs rasped. "Make the bastard bleed." Corrin raised his blade again to finish Briggs. Red lunged, slamming his shoulder into the Admiral with everything he had left. The two crashed into the railing around the node sphere. "Your species is dust," Corrin hissed, mandibles snapping. "You fight like animals, you bleed for nothing." Red spat blood into his face. "We fight because we remember." He drove the knife into Corrin's neck joint, twisting. The Admiral screamed, clawing at him, armor grinding. Sparks rained down. Then Corrin's tail whipped forward, impaling Red through the stomach. The world went cold. Red gasped, choking blood, but he didn't let go. His hand clamped down on the knife, driving it deeper into Corrin's throat. The Admiral staggered, armor cracked. Black ichor poured, his mandibles clicked wildly, his voice gurgling. "You can't stop the swarm." And then Briggs roared from the floor, his railgun propped on his bleeding chest. "Say goodbye, you son of a..." The slug hit Corrin square in the skull. His head exploded in a spray of ichor and metal. The massive body staggered, twitched, and collapsed with a thunderous crash. The chamber went silent, save for alarms and Red's ragged breathing. Hale crawled forward, blood on his lips, staring at the Admiral's corpse. We did it." But Sierra wasn't celebrating. She was staring at the node. The sphere was pulsing faster, veins glowing like fire. "No," she whispered. "He triggered it. He linked the swarm directly. They're coming." As if on cue, the walls trembled. Distant roars echoed through the ship. Hybrids, hundreds, maybe thousands, rushed toward the node chamber. Hale's voice cracked. "We're surrounded. We'll never hold." Sierra's eyes locked on the node. "Destroy it now and they die, all of them, everywhere." Red staggered, blood pouring from his stomach wound. His vision swam, but he forced himself upright. His knife dripped ichor and blood. Or, Sierra said, voice low, you transmit it, the files, the proof, show the galaxy everything. Vega, Calvaris, the experiments, every crime. The Council can't bury it if the whole galaxy sees. Briggs coughed violently, spitting blood. His grin was faint, but his eyes burned. No time for speeches. Pick one, Cap, burn it all or tell it all. Red's hands shook. His whole body screamed with pain. The hybrids were coming. The walls shook with their claws. Destroy it, and humanity would gain vengeance. Transmit it, and humanity might gain allies. Justice or fire? His son's face still haunted him. The hybrids cry, Father. Red limped toward the console, his blood leaving a trail behind. His hand hovered over the controls. Sir, Hale whispered, eyes wide. What do we do? The chamber doors buckled, claws tore through. Red could hear their shrieks now, louder and louder. He turned back to his crew, what was left of them. Hale trembling but unbroken. Briggs bleeding out but still grinning. Sierra, eyes blazing with desperate hope. Red clenched his jaw and slammed his hand down on the console. The node screamed alive. Files burst outward in streams of light, encrypted data unraveling into transmission. Across the galaxy, thousands of hidden frequencies lit up at once. Civilian relays, military channels, pirate beacons, refugee camps, everyone, everywhere. They all saw Vega's destruction, Calvaris stripped bare, children torn apart in laboratories, humans rebuilt into monsters. The truth was free. But the cost? The node pulsed violently, overloading. Hybrids shrieked as their control links spasmed. Some collapsed. Others went berserk, clawing walls, tearing themselves apart. And then explosions. The sphere ruptured, arcs of raw energy slicing across the chamber. The floor split, fire raged, the walls shook. Briggs grabbed Red by the arm, blood pouring from both of them. Cap, the whole damn ship, going to blow. Red stared at the collapsing chamber, the dead admiral, the burning node. His voice was hoarse but steady. Then we take it with us. The doors burst open. Hybrids poured in, shrieking, glowing, tearing into the floor. The Revenant's crew raised their weapons one last time. And the chamber fell into fire. The node chamber collapsed in fire and screaming metal. Sparks rained from the ceiling as hybrids shrieked, flailing under the collapse of their control link. Some clawed blindly at the walls. Others tore into each other, eyes burning red before flickering dark. The truth was free now, streaming across the stars, but the Velcarnes was dying. Red staggered through the chaos, his body soaked in blood. Every step was agony. His stomach wound leaked warmth across his armor, but he forced himself upright. His crew clung to life around him. Briggs, coughing blood, dragged himself forward with his railgun like a crutch. Hale, limping on a shattered leg, fired his plasma rifle at anything that moved. Sierra, eyes blazing, helped them push toward the exit. Deck collapsing, she screamed over the noise. We need to move now. The hybrids surged, dozens still alive, climbing over rubble. Red spun, firing his rifle until it clicked empty. He ripped a pistol from his belt, firing point-blank at a creature's head. Sparks and blood painted his face. Briggs laughed through his coughs. Still got it, Cap. Red didn't smile. He couldn't. He was holding himself together on fury alone. The corridor outside the chamber was splitting apart, flames pouring through ruptured pipes. The ship's spine shuddered as explosions rocked its length. They stumbled upward, climbing through broken bulkheads and smoke. At every turn, hybrids clawed at them, shrieking with broken voices. Red cut them down with his knife, his movements slower now, heavier, but still lethal. Finally, they reached the breach. The Revenant's prow, still jammed into the Velcarnes, hull glowed red-hot from fire. But the ship was ruined. Its engines were dead, its hull cracked. The Revenant wouldn't be leaving. Hale gasped, clutching his side. Sir, we're trapped. Briggs spat blood, his grin a bloody wreck. Never thought I'd die on my feet, better than Vega. Sierra looked at Red, eyes sharp, desperate. There may be another way, the Velcarnes reactor. If you overload it from here, you can finish the ship, end it all, but someone has to stay behind. Her words cut like a knife. Red's hand tightened on his knife hilt. He already knew. He had always known. Sir, no, Hale stammered. His young face was pale, streaked with soot and tears. "There has to be another way. We can all make it." Red cut him off, voice steady. "Listen to me, Ensign. You survived Vega. You lived through this. You carry the truth now. That's more than any of us can ask." Hale shook his head violently. "No, I can't." Red's hand gripped his shoulder, firm, unyielding. "You don't get to choose, son. You live. You take this home." Hale's lip trembled, but he nodded, tears cutting through the grime on his face. Red turned to Briggs. The old gunner leaned against the wall, blood soaking through his armor. "Cap, you're not thinking of stealing my glorious death, are you?" Red almost smiled. "Almost. You've done enough, old friend, more than anyone could ask." Briggs' grin was faint, weak. "Guess I'll finally get some rest, then." Sierra's eyes burned as she stepped closer. "You'll die here, Red. The Council will kill you in silence." Red shook his head. "No, they'll remember, because the galaxy's already seen what we've done." For the first time, Sierra looked at him not as a human, not as an enemy, but as something more. "Then I'll carry your truth, too." Red nodded once. Then he turned, limping toward the reactor controls embedded in the wall. The Velcarnes trembled, alarms wailing louder as systems failed. Behind him, Hale cried out, "Captain, please don't." Red didn't look back. He pressed his bloody hand against the console. The reactor core hummed in response, its overload sequence beginning. The ship shuddered violently. The countdown echoed through the halls. Reactor detonation in 2 minutes. The hybrids shrieked louder, clawing toward them, driven mad by the failing node. Red drew his knife one last time, standing firm as his crew staggered into the escape corridor. Briggs had to drag Hale away, the boy thrashing, screaming for his captain. "We can't leave him." Sierra grabbed the ensign, her voice sharp. "If you don't leave, he dies for nothing." The doors sealed. And Red was alone. The hybrids swarmed, their glowing eyes cutting through the smoke. Red stood at the center, blood dripping from his wounds, knife gleaming in the firelight. He thought of his wife, his son, his home, all gone in Vega's flames. He thought of Briggs' laughter, Hale's trembling courage, Sierra's desperate defiance. He thought of the truth now spreading across the stars, igniting fires in every world. And he smiled just once. "You should have left us alone," he whispered. The hybrids lunged, Red charged. Steel met flesh, claws tore, the chamber shook. And then the reactor blew. The explosion ripped through the Velcarnes, splitting it in half. Fire consumed the alien Titan, tearing it apart from the inside. Hundreds of hybrids burned. Thousands of Council soldiers died screaming. From orbit, fleets watched in horror as their command ship detonated in a silent bloom of white fire. The HSS Revenant was gone. But its message lived. Epilogue: the galaxy remembers. The truth could not be buried. Across the stars, the transmission spread. Miners in the asteroid belt saw it on smuggled screens. Farmers on frontier worlds saw it on hacked satellites. Pirates saw it. Refugees saw it. Even Council citizens saw it. And all of them saw the same thing. What had been done to Vega, to Calvaris, to children, to humans. For the first time in centuries, the Council chamber was silent. No lies could smother the images. No propaganda could drown the screams of the dead. On Earth, survivors gathered in burned-out cities, watching Red's final strike replayed again and again. They lit candles in the streets. They whispered his name. In hidden bunkers on Mars, engineers stared at old blueprints. Spectre-class ships long buried, their eyes burned with new purpose. In refugee camps, children drew the Revenant on walls with charcoal and ash, not as a ship, as a symbol. The message spread faster than fire. Never again. General Abrams stood in the war room beneath Geneva Command, staring at the incoming reports. His officers whispered behind him, shaken, afraid. One voice trembled. "Sir, they'll come for us now. The Council will retaliate." Abrams didn't look away from the screens. His jaw clenched. Let them, now they know. In the shadows of Council space, Chancellor Tren watched the Velcarnes' death on endless replay. His claws dug into the armrest, fury trembling through him. "They sent one ship," he hissed. His advisor's voice was quiet, and it was enough. And far from it all, on a ruined mining outpost, a boy no older than 10 sat with his father, watching the grainy feed of the Revenant's last stand. The boy's eyes were wide, glowing in the reflection of the fire on screen. "Dad, why did he do it? Why did he go alone?" His father's voice was rough, tired, but proud. "Because someone had to remind them. Humanity doesn't bow, not anymore." The boy nodded slowly, his small hand clenched into a fist. And across the galaxy, whispers spread like wildfire. The Revenant, the ship that made the galaxy bleed.